Okay, so I was I was muted, so that was not a mistake. Well, it was a mistake on my part, but that was not intended. That was not intended. But okay, so mic looks good. We got the chat BGM going. For some reason, I have an audio BGM also, but there shouldn't be any, at least not right now. Oh, I think I know what that is. Maybe I can turn that off. We don't need that. Not right now, anyway. Do. Okay, just gonna make sure I got everything here. I got my... It's funny. It's funny. Let me, I guess, do introductions really quick before I go into the story of how we got here. But anyway, hey Nuggets, welcome to the food truck. My name's Ruka. Or I guess welcome on the train. I put a picture of a train on the screen right now. This is the inside of one of the Shinkansen. I may have shown this picture before, or may have shown another picture where I showed the leg room and stuff like that. But pretty typical. It kind of looks like an airplane seating, right? Supposedly Amtrak trains might also look like this, but I've never been on an Amtrak train before, so I can't say. Though, if we ever get intercontinental railway in the U.S., that would be great. I would love to have an intercontinental railway in the U.S., even though it might be expensive as heck to run. It would just be so much better. At least, you get to see a bunch of different things on the ground, and it's probably not going to be as difficult to travel on compared to like flying. Because with flying, you have to like go through airport security, you have to do all that stuff. I feel okay. I mean, US being the US, will probably still have some sort of security before you go onto the trains and stuff. I feel like that's kind of unavoidable and probably for the best in this case, but I don't know. It's nice in Japan that they don't actually do that. It's like, yeah, it's just so much nicer in Japan when it comes to rail travel, but we will talk about rail stuff today. Hey, Workshop, welcome. Sola, welcome. There are some cross-country routes. They're just slow speed, though. Yeah, that's... I think... Where are the cross-country routes? Is there, like, at least one from, like, New York to... I, I, I guess California or something? I know there's some like that. And the thing is, right? The thing is, the US is a gigantic country, and I feel like unless they started, you know, unless they designed the country to be connected by rail and as passenger rail from the start, which I think they did, and then cars took over, and then here we're here now. Um, then we wouldn't be in this issue with like trying to fit all the cars on the roads, and people will be using rail more, kind of like Europe, it being all interconnected. But then again, I think Europe as a whole is still smaller than the US, I think. And also, Japan is like roughly the size of California and vice versa. So, at the very least, you would at least hope you would hope that California would be connected by rail by now, but where to put it when there's too much highway? China did it, yeah, but China. We're not gonna get into politics on this one, but you know as well as I do why China can do it and why we can't do it. Bureaucracy here is not the same as bureaucracy over there. And that's basically what it is. That's basically what it comes down to. But would we love to have it? Yes. If we can just get everyone to cooperate on it. Yeah. If we can actually if we actually get our taxes to do the things taxes need to do, and not worry about, oh no, they're raising taxes on us. But yeah, okay, raise taxes on us if it's actually going to give us good services. But so far I don't think we're getting any good services, not that I can think of. And what services we get is not that great. I said I wasn't gonna get into politics in this one, but it is kind of flowed out of me. So we're not. That's all I'll say about that because I only know my impressions. I don't know the nitty gritty details. I just know, um, despite how high taxes are in some other countries, at least they're getting something out of it. You know. And here we are, yeah, probably a little bit lower taxes in some places, but we're also kind of have to take care of ourselves, and a lot of people can't. Yeah, let's just say that. Anyway, so apparently, so how we got here. Apparently, the news about this happening is a month old by now. I think it was. Let me double check the website. The website I usually go to for my Japan travel stuff is japanguide.com. Um, and I and I was just looking through here trying to figure out what I was going to do in my last week and a half in Japan for this coming trip. And then randomly on the front page, I can't show you the website right now because I don't have my OBS set up to do it. Um, but right on the front page, right next to the feature story, which at the time was a G7 summit in Hiroshima. Now it's the Spirit of Hiroshima 3-day trip, which I think you can do a 3-day trip in Hiroshima. I think that's not a bad length of time. If you do 4 for whatever reason, there is one side trip you can do, which is Rabbit Island, which is a nice place to visit if you like rabbits and would like to see rabbits in quote unquote the wild, which I guess technically it's not the wild, but they're rabbits, feral rabbits. And I say feral rabbits, but they kind of have that Galapagos effect where, in the Galapagos Islands, they have no fear of humans. So these rabbits also have no fear of humans because they don't have any natural predators or anything like that. And the people that visit the islands don't harm the rabbits. No, no, no. These rabbits will swarm you even for food because apparently there's not much food on the island itself. I mean, I think there was a decent amount of grass, but they don't eat that. I don't know what they eat, but they eat something else. And I guess the visitors on the island help them get some of their nutrition and whatnot. Supposedly the rabbits do not also have good eyesight. I thought they did? Question mark? But apparently hearing is better than eyesight. That I can believe, but you're not supposed to touch a rabbit, sadly. But if they do swarm you, you're allowed to touch them then. Loophole. Loophole for those rabbits. But anyway, apparently this news about the railway prices uh, is over a month old by now. Apparently the announcement for this was April 14 of last month. It is still May. We're still in May. But the announcement was April 14th, and I found about this like 1 or 2 weeks ago. And I tried to look up some information on YouTube because, some people are going to be making videos about this price increase and what it means to people and like that. But I don't think they're doing the same kind of breakdown I'm doing. So that's why this stream exists. And also, I kind of just want to give you guys my own take on how this is going to go down. But I basically spent the last... I was trying to figure out how to do this, but I basically spent the last week actually making a PowerPoint presentation for this. It's like, how am I gonna do this on stream? Am I just gonna like open up websites, show stuff, and like go from there? I could do that as a streamer. I could do that, and it wouldn't be unusual, but I feel like it'll be so disorganized because I usually am disorganized unless I have everything like set, like, I don't know, just written out and set up. And I figure I just do this the way I know how to do it, and it's by making a PowerPoint presentation and explaining it as I go, which is not unusual. If you've ever seen those MIT videos on YouTube, they do that all the time, and those are actual classroom lectures at the very least, which I listen to sometimes. There's some useful stuff there if you're interested in that. But we are actually going to go through a PowerPoint presentation. I will not try to bore you guys, but this is the only way I know how to do it, so we will do it this way. Okay? All right, let's get started with this. I'm going to have to Dude, it's not going to be long, okay? It's not going to be long. I'm not going to try to keep you guys long here, but if you have any questions, comments, whatever, as we go through this, please, 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 please don't hesitate to speak up. I would like to talk about it as we go. Um, it's going to be annoying though, because this is going to be full screen on one of my screens. So, so I can't really see OBS too well. So I'm going to have, good thing I have the two screens here, but I can't really see it. But yeah, April 14. The announcement was made, and apparently by October of this year, sometime in October this year, they didn't really say when in October, but if your trip is after October of this year, I am sorry for you all. It's not going to be as easy to do the rail pass this time if you're used to doing that, because I mean the rail pass is not a necessity when you go to Japan, but if you have like a lot of places you want to go to and you travel mainly by Shinkansen and trains, you know, you kind of have to, not kind of have to, but it's easy. It's easier to just get a rail pass and, like, you know, use that everywhere, because normally what you have to do if you're trying to go to the if you're like trying to get a seat on Shinkansen is you have to go up to a counter, buy your ticket, get your seats. Usually you have to get the ticket maybe the day before. You can get it the same day, because most of the time, unless it's like the World Cup. The Rugby World Cup was there the last time I was in Japan, which was October of 2019. And all the trains were super busy. So unless it's a World Cup or some sort of holiday like Golden Week, New Year, I think those are the main two I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's probably the main two. You usually want to get your tickets early, as early as you can. And if you're in Japan during that time and you don't have like a rail pass already and don't have reserved seats already, it could be kind of tough. Not gonna lie, it could be kind of tough. So if you have like times you have to go get from one place to another, um, it's you might not get those times, or you might be pushed later into the day, which isn't too bad. I think the time between from one Shinkansen to the next is like 30 minutes to an hour, maybe about an hour. It's not terrible, but it's still, you know, you still gotta wait a bit. You still gotta wait a bit. But before you, let's say you had a 2-week trip in Japan, right? You could easily before do like take the 14-day regular pass. Let's see, does my mouse show? Oh, it does show up. Before you could like easily take the 14 day regular pass, and you right now it costs like about 47,250 yen. Let me double check what the exchange rate is right now. Normally I would say 100 yen equals $1, but that's far from the truth right now. So let's see, yen to USD. So if 100 yen is roughly 72 cents. So if what does that make it for? Oh wow. Last time I checked it was like 130 yen per dollar. Now it's like 139 yen per dollar. They're not doing too good, Japan, as far as their currency is going, but for us it's a discount. So I know this stream is going to be a lot of math. I was actually going to put a content warning at the beginning of the stream or on the thumbnail. Lots of math warning, lots of math, but there will be lots of math here. That's just kind of how it's going to have to be. It's going to be a very rough estimate, but if you can like take 30% off the yen cost and divide that by 100, you'll get roughly the dollar amount. But that's a lot of mental math. But you know, let's just say 100. Let's just say divide that by 100, and then 30, and then 70% of that's still probably an easier math mentally. But anyway, as you can see, the prices are all increasing. Not quite double, but I think it's in the order around 60% or more. Like the 7-day regular pass goes from about 30,000 yen to 50,000 yen. That's an increase of about 20,000 yen. So let's just say 66% ish for that. That's quite a bit. And then the 14-day regular pass goes from 47,000 yen to 80,000. That's almost double. That's almost double. And then the 21 days goes from like 60 to 100,000, which is ridiculous. Now, I don't think they ever explained why they did this. I have a couple of guesses. I think one of the things is they probably just need to pay a lot of bills and this is the way to do it. So, okay, I'm fine. That's okay. Or there's another reason I'm thinking of that doesn't really get talked about a lot, but it makes sense because I've been guilty of some of these before. There has been some abuses with the rail passes where people getting tickets and being no shows on their assigned seating for the assigned day and go on a different time on a different what do you call this time slot. And I've done that accidentally. I should have. What you're supposed to do is if you can't make your time, you're supposed to cancel it so that the seat opens up to someone else. But and if you don't do that, they lose some money out of that. So I get it. I get it. It's so probably to prevent that kind of thing and maybe earn a little bit extra cash, they probably did this sort of increase. And you know, everything's just getting expensive in general, so probably. However, I don't think the actual train tickets themselves, the individual train tickets that you get for the Shinkansen have increased. I think those are still, maybe they've increased a little bit, but not to this degree. It's only the pass as far as I'm aware of. There's the green passes here also. The green passes are like not luxury, but the first class seating on some of the trains. So there you have the regular trains, you have the regular seats and the green seats. I think the green seats just have a little bit extra room, but the regular seats are pretty roomy already. So there's no reason to get the green seats unless you really, really just want to do it. So for the purposes of the rest of this talk, we're going to focus mainly on regular seats. I've never been on a green seat before, and I don't think I'm missing too much by doing it. But, you know, if you have a chance to try the more expensive seats when you travel, definitely try it. One of these days I want to try it, but I don't have that kind of cash. I don't have that kind of cash. But you can see the prices are going up quite a bit, and it's a steep enough increase that it will affect the way you travel in Japan if you rely a lot on the rail pass like you did before, like I did before also. So you're gonna have to be a little bit more. You're gonna have to be a little bit more. Do a bit more planning. I was trying to say something else, but let's just focus on this for now. Let's just focus on this for now. So, for a 7-day pass, okay? If you look at the cost of a 7-day pass before and now, and all these prices for a one-way trip to any which way you go to, and a so one-way trip is the one-way trip price, and the round trip is just double the one-way trip. They don't have like discounts for round trips. It just doesn't happen. Same thing for planes, by the way. If you do plane tickets in Japan, everything is priced for one way, and if you do a round trip, it's just one way times 2. And if they ever give you a discount, it's like a measly $5, a measly $5 or something. But it's like whatever. It's not much. But train tickets will always be one way. So if you look at the regular 7-day pass, about 29,000 yen, which is not quite $300, but I think let's just say it's about a little over $200 in today's money. Maybe a little bit more, but let's just say 210-ish. If you go to Japan and go to Tokyo and Kyoto, and that will be it's a little bit less than like the price of a round trip ticket from Tokyo and Kyoto is about 26,000. Okay, one other thing I need to mention, these are not exact prices. These are kind of like estimates because there's usually smaller numbers after the hundreds place. But yeah, I mean it's roughly, you can get roughly close to the cost of a 7-day ticket just doing a round trip from Tokyo to Kyoto or even Osaka. Now, Osaka and Kyoto are really close to each other, so if you do use a train pass for that for whatever reason, it's just going to cost you like 500 yen one way on like a regular train. No need for a Shinkansen for that. Um, but if you do Kyoto and then go to Hiroshima for like a couple of days and then back to Tokyo, basically you made out at least $100 or so on the train pass just for a regular 7-day pass. And if you're doing a 2-week trip in Japan, then you don't really need the whole 14 days typically. You can just get away with doing the 7 days. Like you would probably split it up like a few days in Tokyo, and then as soon as you're ready to go out of Tokyo, then you activate the train pass, and then you have 7 days to use it starting from that day you use it. And by the time you go, hopefully by the time you get back to Tokyo, the train pass is still active, and then that's kind of how you make the most out of it. And then you just pay the rest of the regular trains with a Suica or whatever IC card you have. Suica, Tokyo Metro, whichever one. But the further you go, the more the train pass will pay off, right? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Like if you go to, for some reason, if you go from Tokyo to Fukuoka, one way is almost as much as a 7-day regular pass, and if you do a round trip, that pays off quite a bit. And keep in mind, the train pass is not just for the Shinkansen. You can also use that on most regular trains as long as they are JR trains. If they're not JR trains, like let's say in Osaka, I think they have the Kinetsu line. I think there's a Kinetsu line in Osaka, and that's like a Kansai specific railway. You can't use a JR pass on that, but you can use a JR pass on all JR lines that is covered by the pass, as well as buses. Okay, JR does have some buses and also ferries. Like if you're in Hiroshima, there's a town nearby Hiroshima called Miyajima, and most of the time the way to get to Miyajima is by a ferry. And that ferry is a JR ferry, meaning you can use a JR pass on that ferry. And I forget how much it is for a one-way trip from Hiroshima to Miyajima, but I think it's like something like 1,000 yen or so. Not too expensive, but for a day trip, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, but it's a nice boat ride, so why not? But I mean, on our current price though, you can reasonably say yes, JR Pass would still be useful for Tokyo to Kyoto, because it gets pretty close to the cost, and then you can also use it on other trains, which will make up for the rest of the cost of the pass. The nice thing about the JR Pass is you don't have to get multiple tickets. Well, you still have to like reserve tickets for the Shinkansen, and but you don't have to like recharge like an IC card, a Suica card, that kind of thing, or get individual tickets from the vending machines to get through the terminals and stuff. You can just use your pass. I think it's a ticket now. It's not like a passport pass, but you can still use your pass and get through everywhere that accepts it. So it makes traveling a lot easier. It makes travel very, very hassle free. But with the price increase, you can't travel that kind of like a short distance away from Tokyo easily anymore. So 50,000 yen, and you look at the Tokyo to Kyoto price, that is a little bit more than half the 7-day regular pass with a new price that they're going to be increasing into. It does not make it worth it. It would be better to pay for the ticket through the counter and get your reservation that way. Um, yeah, you'll be paying. You'll be doing it like everyone else does. You go through the counter and pay it, which I have done before. Like even with a JR with a pass. Normally with the pass, once you get the pass, you can actually reserve all the seats that you want to reserve during your trip. At least, at most, I think a month ahead. I think that's the limit. 1 month ahead, you can reserve all the seats you want, as long as you know the days and times and all that stuff. Um, but with this one, if you're just if you don't have the pass, I think you can also do that, but you have to be a little bit more careful because you're actually paying out of pocket now. And like I said, there were some abuses with the pass by no shows, and you got the pass, and now they can't make money off it, and yeah, that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's just go for a more concrete example here. 2 week. So let's just use the 2 week trip, 7-day pass as an example, okay? And we're gonna be so there's a before here. So on the before, let's just say you only have 2 weeks in Japan, right? You're gonna go from Tokyo to Osaka, and from Osaka to Hiroshima, and then Osaka to Kyoto, and then Hiroshima to Kyoto. Wait, what's my trip? What am I doing with this plan? Oh, okay. I see. So what's basically happening is you're in Tokyo for the first 4 days of your trip. You're in Tokyo for your first 4 days in your trip, and then from Tokyo, you go to Osaka. When you go to Osaka, that's when you activate your train pass, and you stay in Osaka for a few days, and then after those few days, you go to Hiroshima, stay there for a few days. And then after Hiroshima, you go back to Tokyo on the day that your pass is expiring. That's what the red box is for. Guys, give me a break. I only had 1 week and barely enough time to do this, but I'm trying to explain this as best I can. But as far as how much of the main cost eaters of your trip is concerned, Tokyo to Osaka, we got the price here about 13.5 thousand yen, and then Osaka to Hiroshima, because you need a Shinkansen for that one also, so that's another 10,000 yen. And then when you go back to Tokyo from Hiroshima, that's another 18,000 yen. Lots of money. And I put Osaka and Kyoto here as a side note. And I put 2,000 yen here because I'm assuming you're going to be going to Kyoto and Osaka, commuting from Osaka, going to Tokyo for a couple of days. It might not just be one day. So you might be doing that for 2 days. So allow for 2 days from Osaka to Kyoto to sightsee there also. And they're close enough. I think Osaka and Kyoto are like 30 to 45 minutes away, so you can definitely make that trip really easily. And you probably don't even need to use a train pass. But if you have a train pass, you can use the train pass to absorb that cost. Now, you total all the main costs up, and you get, what, something around 43,000 yen? Somewhere around 43,000 yen, and basically you make out at least 1,000 yen from the cost of the pass, which is huge. Keep in mind, you can still use this on JR train lines, so maybe you'll get a little bit more than you'll make a little bit more than that also. So it makes for a really easy 2 week trip. Yeah, it makes for a really easy 2 week trip between Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, the main tourist areas that you're going to be probably going to on your first Japan trip. And then when you get back to Tokyo, you can either stay in Tokyo for the rest of the 4 days, or you take a side trip elsewhere and pay that out of pocket. And there's some stuff near Tokyo that you don't need a Shinkansen for, and just a regular railway, and that you could also use a train pass on. But since you don't, by the time you get back, it's expired. You can't use it anymore. But it wouldn't be too expensive. It wouldn't be like 10,000 yen expensive, But when they do the price increase after October, you can't do the same thing as this because 43,500 and you're paying 50,000. You're missing a whole 7,000 yen here, and all the smaller train rides that you're going to be doing in Osaka, Kyoto, and Hiroshima cannot pay for that. Also, if you're in Kyoto, for the most part, you're probably not going to be taking the trains. You're probably going to be taking mostly the bus. And even if you take the trains in Kyoto, those are not JR trains. Those are I don't know what company it is. I think it's like Kyoto specific trains, and you have to pay out of pocket on that one. And I don't think they take IC cards. At least the last time I was in Kyoto's subway system, I don't think they took IC cards. I think it might have been just cash and ticket only. But it probably has changed by now. It probably has changed by now. In Osaka, you can use your JR pass. It's easier to do it there. And Hiroshima does not, I think, have trains. Yeah, Hiroshima does not have JR trains within the city itself. They have buses, and they have the trolleys. Hiroshima is really well known for their trolleys, kind of like San Francisco is. Yeah, so they got a lot of trolleys in Hiroshima, and you have to use cash for that one. So you can't use it there either, but you can use the pass, again, from Hiroshima to Miyajima, but yeah, you can do that. And whatever side trips you take from Hiroshima to wherever, like Wakayama, which is near Rabbit Island. I think the train ticket to Rabbit, not train ticket, but the ferry ticket from Rabbit Island and the town port, which town, I'm not sure which town port. I want to say Wakayama, but I'm not sure it's Wakayama. Anyway, that's another out of pocket thing. So already there's not a whole lot of chances to use the JR pass, and if you go back, if you still use the before plan on the new price, you're missing out about 7,000 yen, and that's a decent chunk of cash. Let's say about 50 bucks worth, maybe about 50 bucks worth. So it's like, right, and you can't really use that on anything else. So what do you do? What do you do? To make the 50,000 yen trip pay off, you probably would want to add another Shinkansen ride in between Osaka and Hiroshima. But if you do that, you're kind of stretching yourself thin as far as time between places. So I would not recommend it. Honestly, I don't recommend being in any, like staying in any town for less than 3 days. You can get away with 2. But in general, if you're just going to be like in a certain place and you can make a bunch of side trips from a certain place, stay there for at least 3 days and then make your side trips from a base city, like from Osaka to Kyoto or from Hiroshima to Miyajima, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't add one more Shinkansen ride on the old schedule just to make the new price worth it. It just does not just doesn't work that way. What would make the new price worth it though is if you're going from Tokyo to Sapporo all the way in Hokkaido, and then you make a side trip to Otaru, which is near Sapporo, but you don't even have to make a side trip to Otaru. You can just go from Tokyo and Sapporo, and for 6 days in Sapporo is pretty a decent amount of time if you're just interested in Sapporo and the immediate area around there. And that will pay off the train pass on the new price on the train pass pretty easily. pretty easily. You don't make quite a bit back. Like you're not making 10,000 yen back, but you're gonna get pretty close to it. I don't know what the train situation is in Sapporo though. So I don't know if you can use JR passes over there or their transportation system. Never been there, but one of these days I want to go. Or if you go to Fukuoka. The thing with Fukuoka though, Kyushu is a little bit special, but Fukuoka, just going to Fukuoka itself and then back to Tokyo is not going to make up for the new price. But from Fukuoka, you can make actually a lot of different uh, day trips, side trips from Fukuoka if you just stay there for 7 days, and seventh day you go from Fukuoka back to Tokyo. You can go from Fukuoka to Kumamoto, which is fairly close, and then that's a day trip. You can do a day trip in Kumamoto. I don't know if there. You can probably do more in Kumamoto. I just don't know what you can do in Kumamoto other than, well, that there is a castle in Kumamoto that got affected by an earthquake or something. So that's destroyed. I think they're renovating it right now, but there's some other stuff there too if you just want to sightsee a little bit. But that could be a day trip unless you have something specifically you want to stay there for. And then Fukuoka to Nagasaki. That's also another day trip you can do. And it's not listed here, but you can also do Fukuoka to Saga. Saga Prefecture, you can do that. I actually was... this was my original plan. This route here for Kyushu was my original plan. But I did Fukuoka to Saga just to go to drive-in Tori all the way in Imari, and decided to make it a Saga trip from Fukuoka. So it's like, okay, yeah, you could do that too, and it will pay for it eventually. But yeah. In any case, though, if you were a little bit more sane with your schedule than what I did, then you could do a few other cities next to Fukuoka, and that'll set you good. And you would actually make back quite a bit compared to the 5,000 yen, 50,000 yen price tag. I think close to 17,000 yen. So that's 170, maybe about a little bit over 110, 120 bucks, somewhere around there. Maybe maybe 130, maybe 140, maybe around 130, 140. So that's quite a discount. That's quite a discount. But that would only make sense with a new price if you were going to these locations. If you're going to go to the usual places, Osaka, Kyoto, and all that stuff, you can't do that as easily. And like I said, I would not recommend adding another Shinkansen ride in the middle just to make the ticket price worth it, the pass price worth it. You could, not recommended, just not. So your choice there would be to make your trip a lot smaller and just limit it to fewer cities. But it would also cost you more at the end because now you don't have the pass covering for most of your expenses. That's just kind of how it is. There's going to be a lot of math. There's going to be a lot more planning. You just kind of have to see what works best for you. And if it's your first time in Japan and don't really do any of this, you can get away with it if you just go to Tokyo and Osaka and back and forth and not really go anywhere else. That's perfectly fine. But if you wanted to fit more in that trip and it's your first time, yeah, you can't do it this way. You can't do it like you used to. So there is another option for that. There is a regional pass. Now, I haven't used regional passes before, and in most cases it doesn't make sense to use the regional passes, but there are some specific ones that might make sense. And we'll go over some of the ones that I found that make most sense, and they have a lot of other smaller regional passes for very specific areas that you probably wouldn't think about going to. They don't last as long as the other passes though. I think they last usually 3, 5, 7 days. They don't have anything longer than 7 days, I think. So you have to like check out the very specifics in that. I did include links in the description for the specific ones for all my information. So if you want to check those out, you can. And I'll, after this stream is over, I will also put this presentation in the description so you can check this one out also. All right. But yeah, so regional passes, they kind of break it up over here where the major regional areas are going to be. So you have Hokkaido. Hokkaido has its own regional passes. Kyushu down at the bottom also has its own regional passes. Shikoku, that little island that most people probably don't even go to, also has their own regional passes. And then the main body of Japan, you have Tohoku at JR East. JR Central, I think, is mostly no Kansai is in JR West. What's in JR Central? There's something in JR Central. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but JR East has Tokyo and the whole Tohoku region, and we'll cover some of that. So you definitely have to look at what they have to offer and what your plans are for your trip, and see if a regional pass makes sense for you. Like I said, a lot of them don't make sense trip-wise because it's kind of hard to make a trip out of them, but for some reason they made these passes for those certain places, and I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah. Out of all the regional passes though, I think I found 3 that most people will find some use for. You have East Tohoku, you have Tokyo Wide, and you have Kyushu. We have the maps here for Tokyo Wide and East Tohoku, and I'll try to break it down a little bit. Kyushu will be in a different slide, and I'll explain that a little bit more once we get there. Because I feel like the Kyushu one is probably the best value at the moment if you were to go down to Kyushu. But if you have no plans to go to Kyushu, you know, it's not as good. But anyway, Tokyo Wide. Tokyo Wide does not mean just Tokyo City and the megaplex itself. It actually also covers everything in the Kanto area. Well, I say Kanto area. It doesn't really specifically say Kanto over here, but you can go all the way up to... Where does this go up all the way up to? You can go all the way up to Kusatsu Onsen with this one, a very famous onsen, a very onsen town with very good hot springs and all that stuff. I think we talked a little bit about Kusatsu Onsen in the last Japan Talk stuff. Nikko, if you're a huge nature lover, Nikko is a really good place to go to. So Tokyo to Nikko, that'll be a nice day trip. But if you want to stay in Nikko for like a day or so, probably the Tokyo Wide doesn't make too much sense. But you can, if you want to do a day trip, you can go to Nikko. You can go to Kawaguchiko, which is near Mount Fuji. I think there's other places that are closer to Mount Fuji though, but Kawaguchiko is one of them. Yokohama is not that far, to be honest. You can take a normal train for that. Tokyo Wide though does cost about 10,000 yen. So I think right now that's like roughly 72, 75 bucks, somewhere around those areas, and you have 3 days to use it. Not sure how many trips or how worth it is, but just try not to use that within Tokyo itself. Otherwise, you would be losing a lot. You would have to make plans to go outside of Tokyo for that to make sense, and you know, at least a couple of Shinkansen rides. If you're gonna be doing a main Shinkansen ride, I probably would recommend going to Kusatsu Onsen, because if you're going to Kusatsu Onsen, you're probably going to be there only for a day trip anyway. Then again, I haven't checked the price for that, so double check. East Tohoku. Now, I don't know if most people think about going to Tohoku when they go to Japan, but if you've been to Japan at least more than once, Tohoku, I feel like, is a place that you might want to consider visiting. There's a lot of neat stuff over there, especially if you're into nature and if you're into hot springs. There's a lot of places there to go to. Morioka, very famous for their noodles and a bunch of other stuff. So if you want to do the wanko soba noodle challenge, Morioka is the place for you to go to, as well as I think they have other two other noodle varieties also. Sendai, I've been to Sendai before. Nice place to visit, nice place to stay. And from Sendai, you can go to Yamagata and Yamadera and see all the nature and stuff like that. The nice thing about the Kyushu Pass is, I do have a range on the Kyushu Pass. It's 8,000 to 20,000 for 5 days. You might want to double check the website that's linked below for the details on that one. I forget which what the caveat is for the 8,000, but I think the 20,000 is all Kyushu. And then no, that's Kyushu. East Tohoku. 20,000, never mind. We'll get to Kyushu later, and we do have breakdowns for that. Tohoku is 20,000, 5 days, which is a little bit more lenient for the price that they charge for it. And I think you can easily make that back, depending on where you go. But you can probably make your base like in Sendai. Let's say you go from Tokyo to Sendai. That itself, it will cover for like at least half the price of the East Tohoku pass. And then even if your pass expires going back from Sendai to Tokyo, you still have options on going to Morioka, Akita, Aomori with that pass. Though I guess going from Sendai to Aomori is a pretty long trip. Maybe don't do that as a day trip. Maybe don't do that as a day trip. It's like it's a good 5+ hours trip just to get there. But yeah, Tohoku's nice if you want to do a bunch of nature stuff. Just check out the little details. But the one I want to give an example with is the Kyushu one. Kyushu one's a little bit interesting because they kind of split it up into 4 different things. You have the 4 different passes, not things. I should say passes. Be specific. Be very specific. So you have the all Kyushu pass. If you want to go all around Kyushu, then maybe the 7-day all Kyushu pass is good for you. It's cost 20,000 yen, and you can easily make that. Easily make that if you just go to even a few places. Let's say you're based in either Fukuoka or Kumamoto, and you go all the way down to Kagoshima, where they have the what call this, the volcano sand baths. I think that's what they're called. The sand, they have like a hot spring sand bath kind of thing. I think they also have that all the way in Beppu. So pick one, but Kagoshima is definitely the more famous one of that. I think Miyazaki has I don't know exactly what's in Miyazaki. I think they have like some of the best beef, even better than Kobe beef. But more than that, I think it's mostly nature out there. It's kind of mysterious. But you can make your base either in Fukuoka or Kumamoto, and then do some side trips from there. Like if you make your base in Kumamoto, you can probably do. I don't know if you can do a side trip to Kagoshima. That might seem a little bit far, just for sand baths and then go back. You can also like go to Fukuoka and do the Fukuoka Kumamoto, Fukuoka Nagasaki, and if you just did that, it would cover the 7-day all Kyushu pass just the same. But if you want to be even cheaper and be a little bit be more specific on where you want to go, you can get the Northern Kyushu pass, which is just the northern part of Kyushu. Plus, well, it will cover Fukuoka, it will cover Kumamoto, it will cover Nagasaki, it will also cover Beppu, interestingly enough. And that's a lot of places for 5 days that you can do, and it's like 14,000 yen. Oh, a little bit, not quite half the price as the all Kyushu. That doesn't also last as long, but like I said, if you just go to Fukuoka, Kumamoto, and Nagasaki, um, you already made almost $100 from that, from the difference of what it would cost you plus how much the Northern Kyushu pass costs. Now, this is all assuming, of course, that they don't also raise the regional pass prices. But if they didn't, this would be definitely an option. There is one caveat, though. The main caveat is that you do still have to travel to Fukuoka from Tokyo. Let's just say from Tokyo, because that's where most people are coming from. And Shinkansen from Tokyo to Fukuoka is not cheap. It really is not cheap. One way is 22,000 yen. Round trip is 44,000 yen. Expensive. Expensive. And a plane will be about 15,000 yen. I think that the prices were a little bit weird when I was looking these up. But let's just say on average about 15,000 yen round trip to Fukuoka from Tokyo. And that makes much more sense financially. But there are still, again, caveats with that. And I will get into those caveats in a bit. So, caveat time. You could do a flying, right? I did mention flying is an option going from Tokyo to at least the far places of Japan. Fukuoka, one of them, down in Kyushu. And you can also fly to Sapporo. Most people do that because the trains are expensive and it takes a long time to get there. Now, I think generally from one place to another from Tokyo is going to cost you between 9,000 to 1,500 yen round trip. Again, depending on the route, depending on the airlines and all that stuff. They do have some low-cost carrier airlines. Again, that's going to be on the information for that is going to be in the bottom of the description. Well, not the bottom of the description. It's going to be in the description. So you can check that specific out for that one. The nice thing about flying, I haven't flown before yet. I'm going to be, for the trip I'm going to be doing this coming year, I will be flying to Fukuoka from Tokyo this time around because time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. That's a big plus for flying. It is faster than trains for anything over 4 hours. Anything under 4 hours becomes slightly more equal. Well, between 3 and 4 hours, trains and planes are about the same time-wise. Price-wise, I think planes would still win out just a little bit. But if you're looking just at speed, anything over, if your train ride is 4 hours, plane might make more sense time-wise and financially. However, there are some downsides with taking the plane. And if you've flown before, you probably know what these downsides are already. You still have to get to the airport. And getting to the airport is not fun. Now, I think for most people, you're going to be flying from Haneda and not Narita. So it'll be a little bit shorter. I think Haneda to Tokyo main station is about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Meanwhile, going from Tokyo station to Narita is, I think, at least an hour, about an hour. It's not a huge difference, but, you know, it's still time. That's still roughly 1 hour you have to take from Tokyo station to the airport. Okay, that's one. Two, depending on how you check in, you probably will check in online. But if you have any luggage that you're going to be also checking in, you have to get in line for that. You can't just you cannot just you know, you can't just get on the plane if you have luggage to check in. You have to line up like everyone else does, and that might take some time. Maybe not an hour worth of time, maybe like 15, 30 minutes, depending on how many people are there, but that's, you know, that's still time. And then you also have to go through security, which could be who knows how long. So all in all, that's already 2 hours roughly. And then, you know, the plane has a lockout window. Like, when I say a lockout window, like they will stop taking on passengers after what, 30 minutes or so, I think, depending on what kind of flight it is. Let's just say usually 30 minutes before the takeoff, they don't take people on anymore, so you have to budget in time for that. So you're already looking at 2.5 roughly hours just to make sure you get there on time. So that's 2.5 added to what your trip time. Meanwhile, if you're already on the train, you can just get on the Shinkansen. You still have to travel to whatever Shinkansen station you're going to, but that probably doesn't take more than 30 minutes depending on where you're going from. And then once you're actually on at the Shinkansen station, it's pretty easy. There's no security, there's no checking in luggage. At least I don't think so, but I think the rules with luggage these times is you have to reserve space for the luggage. Otherwise, you have to find another way to get your luggage around. Like, they don't let you just take your luggage on the Shinkansen these days. You have to actually make sure there's a reserved spot. That's kind of how it is now. Yeah, I think there were a lot of complaints before with the with the luggage situation before Japan closed down, and this was their solution. Understandable. But in general, it's a lot easier to get on the train than it is to get on the plane. So there's that hassle. Seats also might not be as comfortable. I mean, if you've been flown on planes before, and budget airlines might be the same way here. It's kind of cramped. Not very spacious. And the Shinkansen seats are actually quite comfy. Lots of leg room. More leg room than you would think it would have, to be honest. And if you're flying a budget airline, I think some of them might have some luggage fees. Double check on that one. But it's going to be like bare bones, like agreement on your ticket. So double check if for luggage fees. If you have to pay for luggage fees, then that adds to your ticket. I don't know how much, but take that into account. Just FYI. Now, I did say there was like a break even of about 4-ish hours between a plane and a train. So we have this chart here to compare that. Tokyo and Osaka, train cost is going to be about 27,000 round trip. Meanwhile, a flight to Osaka is only about 12,000 round trip, a lot cheaper. And the flight time is 1.5 hours, and train time is 3.5 hours. It sounds like the plane would be better overall, right? But keep in mind that the time for the plane, the flight time on the plane does not include the check-in at the airport, the security at the airport, and then you gotta get, if you checked in anything, you gotta pick up your luggage. So they're roughly the same if you budget all that time in there also. So the thing you're paying for on the train at that point is comfort, one, and two, sightseeing. I mean, most people do the trains anyway because it's convenient, one. At least this is the reason why I do the trains. I do the trains because it's convenient, it's comfortable, and you get to see stuff while you're traveling, which is a huge plus. I don't know about you, but I like seeing stuff outside the window. And clouds are nice, not gonna lie, clouds are nice. But I do like to see the towns, I like to see what's going on out there, and trains have that. So yeah, overall, you get what you pay for in that sense. Now, if you're going to Fukuoka or Sapporo from Tokyo, the train cost goes up a lot. A lot. 44,000, 53,000 going to Fukuoka or Sapporo. It also takes forever and a half. Now, like I said, if you like sightseeing from the train, this might not be a bad thing, and if you have all the time in the world, this may not be a bad thing. However, keep in mind that 6 hours going to Fukuoka or almost 9 hours going to Sapporo is non-stop. Depending on how you like to travel, you might want to stretch your legs a little bit in between. And sometimes there's not a whole lot of time from one. Sometimes you have to like transfer from one Shinkansen to another. Most of the time, sometimes these are not like direct trains. There are some, but if you have to transfer from one train to another, there's not really a whole lot of time. Maybe 30 minutes. I think I had 1 hour at best when I stopped over at Nagoya to go somewhere else. But really, there's not a whole lot for like lunch or anything like that. You can probably like go to the convenience store, grab a few things, and that would be it. Unless you specifically, what do you call it? Unless you specifically made time in between the trip to give yourself enough time for like lunch, relax a little bit before your next leg of the journey. But again, it's expensive. It takes a long time compared to the plane, which I think is roughly 2 hours from Tokyo to Fukuoka or Sapporo. It's not that far. Keep in mind that Japan is about the size of California, and California, big as it might be, doesn't take a whole lot of time for planes to go from one end to the other, or at least from the center to the top or to the bottom. And the cost is a lot cheaper, like almost 30% cheaper. Well, not 30% cheaper, but 33% or less of the price, depending on which direction you're going to. So budget wise, it's very good. Again, even if you take into account the check-in and security times, let's add 2 hours to the flight time of that. 2 hours goes to 4 hours. It's still faster than going to than 6 hours from Tokyo to Fukuoka, and definitely a lot better than the 9 hours going from Tokyo to Sapporo. Like 4 hours on total trip time from just getting to the airport and then flying versus 9 hours. I think I would take the plane if time was an issue. But if time was not an issue, definitely take the train. And if it makes sense for the pass to pay off, there's that too. Again, lots of math, lots of math. So the bottom line of all this, traveling won't be as hassle free. I think we hammered that point down pretty well throughout this entire thing. You do have to plan quite a bit more. And if you're only taking trains, it's going to cost you quite a bit. So traveling to Japan, it was expensive enough just to get the plane ticket to go over there, especially if you're across the oceans. Or, if you're coming from Europe or if you're coming from the US, it's expensive enough to get there and then add on another $500 or so for the train bill. That's quite a bit of money to budget into the trip. So you just really have to figure out what's best for you, and depending on what you want to do during the trip. But again, so my suggestion is, if you're going to Fukuoka or Sapporo anytime during your trip, I suggest maybe flying there. You would get there cheaper, you would get there faster. Just have to plan the luggage thing a little bit more. And then once you get to those places, you can opt to either pay out of pocket. Well, I say out of pocket, but you can opt to get a regional pass, or just pay everything straight up without a pass. Then that will make your traveling at least a lot cheaper. There's good sides and bad sides to this, so it just really depends. It really depends. I mean, part of this stream is talking about what you can do with the price tags, and really the only thing I can think of is plan smarter and maybe consider taking planes into your planning. Like, you already took a plane to get to Japan, and then you have to take another plane to get to another part of Japan. It sounds a little bit too much sometimes, but you might have to make the trip cheaper and maybe somewhat easier, depending on where you're going to. Now, I mean, not gonna lie, I love the trains as much as anyone else does. And if you've been on the Shinkansen once, you kind of want to use it as much as possible, even though it takes forever and a half sometimes. But with the price increases that are happening, I don't know if that will be worth it unless you can afford it both time-wise and financially. That's just kind of how it is. However, still worth it. I figure if you're willing to go through all the trouble of planning and actually getting to Japan, you may as well make the best of it. And it's just worth visiting in general. Even with the price tag, I would still keep going over there because there's still a lot of places I want to see. Right? There's still a lot of places I want to see. There's still a lot of places I want to experience, and I'll keep doing it until I can't. Basically, I just will have to plan a little bit better. But I think for this coming trip I'm going to be doing this year, since since the trip is in October, I can still get the train pass before October and use a train pass. I will still be flying though. I will still be flying. The thing that makes it tough on me for this trip is that I'll be flying from Tokyo to Fukuoka, and then Fukuoka to a mystery spot, which I don't know if I mentioned what the mystery spot is, but I will mention it after the trip is over, so that it'll be a surprise for people here. And then from mystery spot back to Fukuoka, so it's like I think I'm taking like 3 trains, but I'm not taking not trains, 3 planes. But I'm not taking like a flight back from Fukuoka to Tokyo, because from Fukuoka the plan is to go to Beppu for hot springs and other sightseeing, and from Beppu taking the train back to Tokyo, which is gonna take a long time. I think it's like 7 hours or something. But going on the train is kind of like habit at this point, so it's like, what do you want to experience? And I don't want to experience just flights for the first 2 weeks of the trip. Be doing a mix of flying, a little mix of trains, and also driving. I'll be driving for the first time in Japan. That's gonna be interesting. At least that's the plan. That's gonna be interesting though. Anyway, so that's it for the presentation today. That's all I really got, and I gave you what advice I can. If you have any questions for me, anything you want to add to that, let me know now, or let me know in the comments below after the stream is over. But these links that I have on the screen right now are all going to be in the description below. Like, they should be available right now. And I will make the presentation, I will make this PowerPoint slide available after the stream is over. So yeah, I think the main thing for me though right now is it's just gonna be a little bit more hassle. It's gonna be a little bit more hassle. You can't do any crazy routes like you would normally do, because if you what I would sometimes do is take the, like, let's say I was in Japan for 14 days. Sometimes I would take actually just the 14 days, the 14-day pass, and plan my trip around that 14-day pass and make sure that I at least meet the cost of the pass. That way it's worth it. And the reason why I would do that is just because it just makes it easier to get through all the trains. You can go through all the terminals so easy with that. But financially, it might not make sense anymore to do that. So, and just because you're there for 14 days doesn't mean you get the 14-day pass. You can definitely use the 7-day pass, and only use the pass for the most expensive parts of your trip, which is going to be the bullet trains, the Shinkansen. And if you plan to be going, let's say if you stay longer there than 14 days, let's say you go 21 days or more, you better make sure that the 14-day and 21-day passes are worth it for your trip. And make sure you know when you want to use that and when it's going to end. Otherwise, you're going to be paying quite a bit out of pocket. But yeah, basically all we're doing is now introducing regional passes as an option, and then also flying, which I don't know if most people consider flying when they're already in Japan. At least I usually don't, because I usually like taking the scenic route. But this time it might be more of an option. It's gonna be interesting though, flying domestic once we get there. So yeah, that's gonna be an interesting thing to go through. We'll see. We'll see. That's all I got. That's all I got. Again, if you have any questions, comments, whatever, I am here right now. Otherwise, if no one has anything to ask, add, or anything like that, I will end it here, and we will see you next time. Let's see. Yeah, I think the main thing right now is I'm just trying to figure out what to do for my last week and a half. Trying to like think maybe go to Osaka. Osaka might be nice. But I kind of also want to go somewhere that's not as easily accessible, like Osaka. I mean, I can go to Osaka anytime. Osaka is easy to get to, but maybe going to I don't know, Nagoya, not Nagoya. I'm not thinking Nagano. I'm thinking Nagano, or maybe to Toho or somewhere in Tohoku, because I mean it's fall season basically. And I should at least go see the turning of the leaves. I don't think the leaves are gonna turn in Osaka during the time I'm there. So it's like, what's actually worth? I mean, I can go to Osaka anytime, but that's not too much. It's not too much. Anyway, just kind of thinking. But yeah, I think that's all I got for now. So I don't see any questions, so we're gonna end it here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for coming to this. I was gonna say TED Talk, but this is not a TED Talk. Not even close to what a TED Talk is like. But welcome. Thank you for coming to this class. I guess we'll call it a class. Thanks for the info. Yeah, I hope that helped. I don't know if I don't know if you had this information already or had an inkling of what to do for your next trip, but this is more relevant for people who are going to Japan the first time or going back to Japan after October, because that's when they plan to do the price increase. If you already gone to Japan this year, like some other people that I know have, or going to Japan between now and October, or even October itself, you're still okay. You still have the old prices. But afterwards, that's when it gets dicey. So if you have plans to go next year, that's when it gets dicey. And yeah, just keep in mind you do have other options, but your travel bill, not including the plane ticket you use to get to Japan, is gonna be a lot. Well, I don't want to say a lot more expensive, but it's gonna be more expensive than it used to be. And if you think about it, if you get the rail pass anyway, you're either breaking even or you're making $100, maybe $150 at best back, unless you are one of those crazy travelers that go to a lot more places and don't calm down during the trip in a very short amount of time. And then you can make a lot more back that way. But it's kind of rare to go make back like over $200, let's say, on a rail pass. 100 seems to be average, and if you're adding another $100 to your trip just by paying full price and not using the pass, it's not that bad if you think about it. But you could make it cheaper if you were pinching pennies. And some people might want to pinch pennies and pinch seconds, right? Especially if you're going to Sapporo and Fukuoka. I think by the time you decide to go to Fukuoka or Sapporo, and those are your main destinations, I think by that time it kind of makes sense to, okay, maybe let's actually take the plane. And that's kind of how I was right now. Like I said, my original plan was to take the train from Tokyo to Fukuoka, and then fly. No, not fly. Would I have to fly? No, I think I either had to take a ferry or I had the option to fly. I kind of wanted. I'm the scenic route type of person, but the scenic route does take a lot of time. So it would be like train ride to Fukuoka and another train ride down south to where the port is, and then from there you take the ferry, which is another chunk of time. If I had 3 months in Japan, I would definitely do that. But since I only have like 3 weeks, and the person I'm traveling with is only going to be there for 2 weeks, uh, kind of have to like do other things speedy wise. So yeah, just whatever works for your trip, basically. But yeah, that's all I got for now. I will see you all next time. Next time we do a Japan Talk stream, I hope not to be so technical and do this kind of thing. But once in a while, we do kind of have to talk about this when they come up because, you know, it's kind of important. It's kind of important. But next time we do this, I hope to talk about more fun stuff like places to go to or past experiences, past story stuff. We'll try to do this again soon. Maybe not 2 weeks soon, but we'll try to do it again soon. Look forward to that whenever that might be. And I'll see you all next time. I'll be streaming again later this week, and I'll be putting the waiting room up later. All right. Thank you all for coming, everyone. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye bye.